here, and I'm happy to be broadcasting from WITV7 in the beautiful Queen City, Charlotte, North Carolina, USA. Hey, friends, will you join me for just a minute and imagine how amazing you'd feel living the unique and distinct life you were put on this planet to live, doing work you love, with people you love, in places you love, and all the while creating something of real value for others. That's what I call a life of significance. And I can tell you, it makes a very happy life. And so can my friend, Michalla Brianna. She's here to share her unique and distinct journey to her life of significance. But before we bring her on, I'd like to share a poem that we created to thank her for being our guest star today. It's called Brushstrokes of Healing. And it goes like this. With colors and kindness, she stitches the seams, mending the broken, restoring their dreams. A healer, a guide, a light shining bright, turning deep pain into hope and new life. Through art and expression, through wisdom and care, she reaches the lost with a heart she lays bare. For children who struggle, for minds in despair, she offers her gifts, a love beyond rare. Listen in close as Michalla's story is told of courage, compassion, and a heart made of gold. On Something Significant, come and explore her brushstrokes of healing and so much more. Hey, Michalla, welcome to the show.
You're gonna make me cry and we haven't even started yet. That was so beautifully moving. I can't wait to digest it and process that even slower, but I was really present with your words. Thank you so, so much for that gift.
It's a pleasure. So get us started by telling us what you do these days to make your mark of significance on the world.
Mm. So these days, in order to make my mark of significance on the world, I am a clinical counselor, a Reiki master, a life coach, specifically life purpose, druid, shaman healer. I also am doing expressive arts therapies, sound bathing. Really want to integrate the ancient practices with the modern sciences and bring them together for individuals to heal.
So tell us quickly about the Healing Arts LLC
Mm.
and how that fits in with all those titles and things that you just mentioned, and also your Barrie Patch Books for
Mm.
kids.
Thank you. Yes. So the Healing Arts LLC, I founded in 2022, and I'm now working there full time and seeing clients in all of the avenues that I just mentioned, along with my husband, James, who just joined me in January. And we're both now doing also brain spotting and EMDR. So for those individuals struggling with trauma, Barrie Patch Books, I started quite some time ago. I want to say it was around 2018, and that's where I publish my children's stories. And those are meant to educate, inspire, uplift. I also have a gaming application called Lily's Adventure that's tied into one of those books so that children can practice reading and writing and find and seek skills. And also, I forgot to mention, I am working as an executive producer with Carrie Zane out of California to hopefully be able to bring a new television series that kind of molds together everything that I just mentioned. And we'll bring in some food too.
Very good. Just quickly, this isn't what you're doing these days, but your past experience with Disney. Everybody loves Disney, so tell us a little bit about what you did for Disney.
Yeah, absolutely. So in the past, I was working at Disney. I think I was about 20 years old when I started there. It was my first time being moved out of my grandparents' home who raised me. And I was friends
Mm.
with Belle and Fairy Fawn and a lot of the fur characters like Pooh Bear, Chip and Dale, things of that nature. And I really loved working with the kids and being in that entertainment segment. My parents were both professional ice skaters, so I grew up in the entertainment industry. And I think
Mm.
being backstage again and being in that realm really spoke to my inner child.
Yeah, very good. All right, Michelle, let's do a little mathematics so our friends all around the world can get to know you through our happy formula. It's very simple, but it's super powerful, and it goes like this. Power plus purpose equals happy. So
Mm,
let's start with power. What are your personal practices for building up all the power that you need to get things done, whether it's physically or mentally, financially or spiritually, emotionally?
mm,
In other words, what do you do on a regular basis to create the power you need to take excellent care of yourself and your loved ones and still
mm.
have plenty left over so you can be a giver to others?
That's a great question. We should all be asking ourselves this question, shouldn't we?
Mm,
So that we can
yes,
have our
ma'am.
cups overflowing and giving to others. So I would say that in order to continue to cultivate energy to give back to others, I am engaging in therapy practices myself. I will
Mhm.
do sound bathing, card pulls, spiritual practices in nature, expressive arts, right? Painting and creating in a lot of different ways, writing, journaling, poetry, self Reiki, spending time with friends and family, hiking, making sure that I'm getting enough exercise. I try not to be too hard on myself on that one, right? We're all in different phases when it comes to it, but as long as I feel healthy and I'm not beating myself up is really the goal. Of course, connecting with my husband, calling my grandmother as often as I can, making sure we have savings, that we're traveling, that we're making space for things that, well, as you said, fill our cup.
There's when you talk about power, and I have
Mhm.
a pyramid with our 4 blocks in the bottom are physical, mental, spiritual, and financial fitness.
Mm,
And I used to think in those terms that, all of us need to do that. And you mentioned, my physical is not quite as where it needs to be. But what I've learned, and I like your thoughts on this, it does, all of us are different. So I was an athlete, and so physical fitness is really important to me. But if you're a creative, it's the spiritual side of it that is what
mhm.
gets the energy. And my
Yes.
my one of the guys that taught me that was this beautiful, brilliant musician, BB King, who was overweight. Probably, I don't know what his
Mhm.
diet was like. I didn't know him, but he was not physically fit the way we would
Mhm.
describe it. He probably wouldn't pass most nutritionists, guidelines. You shouldn't eat that, BB King. And how could you tell BB King anything? He had all the power he needed. He lived till
Mm,
he was 89 years old. He lifted people up, their spirits all over the world. And so
mm.
I think culture tells us
Yes.
to respond like you did, maybe not quite as I need to physically, but when you're in your
Mhm.
creative element, you're just loaded with energy, aren't you?
Absolutely. And I always
Yeah,
tell my clients who are coming in and saying, I want to lose weight, you're not going to do something unless you really want it. So
yeah,
instead of saying, I want this, but you don't really, and then beating yourself up over it and self
yeah,
deprecating, just admit
yeah,
and find
yeah,
something that does work.
yeah, yeah, 100%. Well, while we're on the subject of power, my favorite power generating concept is called a Kaizen state of mind. Beautiful Japanese idea that small incremental improvements add up over time to yield great big results. And I love it because it's based on mindset, not circumstance. Kaizen life is knowing there's always something I can do better tomorrow than today. And it creates this optimistic, gentle, but really powerful and continuous uplifting of my life day after day after day. So, Mashallah, how does Kaizen in your life help you increase your power to continuously become more so you can continuously give more?
Mm. I really like this question because for me, it's almost split speaking to my past and my present self. The old me would have taken this in the context of do more, be more within society, accomplishment,
Hmm.
education, and things of that nature. And when we go into this state of do more, we are telling ourselves we're less and we're focused on the
Hmm.
lack. So I really like the way you're discussing this in a different context, and in that sense, I am every single day self aware. And that's the greatest gift I can give to myself in learning who I am, what I want, giving grace for change, and making sure that I'm constantly expanding consciousness.
And so how could you apply Kaizen to that?
Mm,
How do you work on that concept of accepting and embracing yourself
mhm.
and get better and better at it through Kaizen?
I think it's a natural process. If someone has a desire for higher consciousness and change and shift, they'll create naturally or perhaps consciously these moments throughout their day. And in knowing
Hmm.
ourselves, we're then able to more easily give back to others, right? Because if we're elevated, we can elevate others with us.
Hmm. I've got quotes planned for the end of the interview, as I always do, but
Yeah.
this discussion reminded me of one that I love. It's
Mm,
about acceptance, accepting, and you mentioned we have to learn to
mm,
accept ourselves. It's from
mhm,
Adyashanti, and he said the the moment we completely accept ourselves, we totally transition to to
yes.
our ultimate self, something along those
Yes.
lines. I didn't get it quite right. And
Oh,
when I first read it, I said, why don't we? why don't we completely accept ourselves? Why is it so hard? So you're working with a lot of clients and you're
Mhm.
teaching them, you've already mentioned it 2 or 3 times in different ways. You have to accept who you are to get started. So why don't we totally accept ourselves?
That's a good question. That's like a philosophical question. I think for every single person, it's different, right?
Mm,
We could go stereotypically, people don't accept themselves if they're raised in an environment of conditional love versus unconditional, where they think they need to do more and be more for others. We can tie in people pleasing to this. We can tie in fear
mm,
of acceptance and rejection and abandonment, right? We all want to fit in and chameleon in order to be part of
mhm,
the community, because scientifically, our minds think that if we don't have this acceptance and we're not involved in the community, we're isolated. And isolation means death, right? To this subconscious, like mammalian mind. So that's a great
mhm,
question. It's
mhm.
it's it's vast in its response, I think, and varies person to person.
The quote is complete acceptance of self creates a total transcendent
Mm,
self. That's
yes. Yes,
all right.
absolutely.
Let's move on to purpose. That's the second element of our happy formula.
Mm,
And I've observed that major life transformations, that really big discovery of purpose, sadly, often comes through devastation,
mm,
addiction, abuse, disease, death, disaster. Something horrible strips a life to its core,
mhm,
resulting in a big and often unexpected change. However, in my book, Turning Inspiration into Action, I share the transformational process that I've used to discover purpose in my life using
mm.
inspiration. So, how about you, Michelle? Was there a specific moment or event or crisis or inspiration that revealed to you the God given purpose you were meant to live?
Yes. And again, this is twofold. I want to say, in the context I think we're really aiming towards, I was raised by parents who were ice skaters, and my father had some addiction issues, and my mother is schizophrenic bipolar, undiagnosed for many years. So I think that I was naturally their counselors quite often in childhood.
Hmm,
And then when I moved in with my grandparents, it was a whole different narrative of experiences. And from that, doing all of the different things that I did, they all came together where I felt lost and then I understood. And now
hmm,
on the other side of everything, it all fits in and I've utilized every single aspect. On the other hand, I also want to throw in that I feel that my purpose and meaning is to be here and have an earthly experience as a human, to experience all the emotions and the full range of things, good to bad, and to be able to then, like I said, help others and translate that.
So you mentioned ice skaters, professional ice skaters,
Indeed.
yeah. And were they or was your family? Do you know people who were lost in the ice skating community from that recent tragic air crash?
Mm. I wasn't connected to anyone personally. We
Yeah,
worked a lot doing different ice shows, Nancy Kerrigan and Scott Hamilton, like the oldies,
yeah.
the classics.
Okay, okay. And then I think from your biography, I saw that you did really come overcome some significant struggles in your youth with anxiety, scoliosis, and bullying. Do I have that right?
Yeah, I found out that I had scoliosis when I was 15 and I had to wear the brace every single night. You know, you can't breathe, you're just
Mm,
laying there. You want to rip
mm,
it off. And I always tell the story that I wrote my first children's book in the parking lot of All Children's Hospital because writing was a way for me to relieve my stress. So I tried to turn that into a positive and to think, how can I inspire, even though I'm going through this? And
mm,
then chronic pain has been a
mm,
big component. I lost the ability to have kids about 3 years ago due to ovarian
mm,
cysts and contortions. And when I was bedridden for 3 months before we knew what was going on, that was when I actually said, I can't use my body, but I can use my mind. And I obtained all
mm,
those certifications that we mentioned earlier. So I, again,
mm.
tried to use what I still had and be grateful.
Oh, very good.
Mhm.
Um, and so, um, is with your books,
Mhm.
can you think of an experience with a particular child or a moment since you've been writing those books that have confirmed to you that this is in the realm of the work that you're meant to do?
Oh, I love that. I can say that every time I've done a book signing, and I've sat with a child and done an autograph, or I've heard them read it and I've seen the excitement behind it, every single one of those gives back to me. Every single one of those makes me feel this like, oh, this wasn't just a hobby, right? This creative craft is something
Mm.
that can be really meaningful and impactful, and it's very special, each one of them.
All right. And then with your coaching
Hmm.
and integration of science and spirituality, was there a moment when you realized that you were called to blend these elements as your true
Mm.
calling to help people?
That happened really organically. So I initially started with my bachelor's in creative writing, and I wanted to add depth to my characters. So I got a second bachelor's in human developmental psychology, and I said, wow, naturally, I'm really drawn to this, to the idea of helping people in the mind. So my first
Mm.
master's was in clinical mental health counseling, and my second is currently in creative writing and literature. So I say that because that's how those two blended together. And then I started to look at my clients who are coming to me and saying, no offense to them, because everyone needs their own niche, but my counselors are just nodding and writing things down and taking my money and I'm leaving. And I feel like I'm venting, but I don't feel like I'm getting enough out of it. So I really
Mm.
wanted to give individuals unique and different opportunities, vast and varied, that were meeting cultural, religious, spiritual checkpoints for everyone because everyone's different. And to be able to integrate what I loved, which is expanded consciousness. So I got to learn
Mm.
and then give back.
Very good. And then what led to the creation of the gaming and the filmmaking? So that's kind of an expression,
Mm.
getting out of the one-to-one coaching and getting in more to
Yeah.
multimedia and broadcasting.
Absolutely. I would say that the connection to Carrie in California, I feel like I manifested or prayed for. I was
Okay.
sitting, and I was previously a commercial model and a voiceover actress, and of course, entertainer at Disney. And I really wanted to bring that back because it gave me a lot of joy. And so I kept
Uh,
repeating on a daily basis during my mantras and saying, I'm an executive producer and I really want to work for a network and I really want to bring something inspirational to the world. And lo and behold, they contacted me on LinkedIn and said, we don't know why we found you, but we found you. And do you want to create a show? So we started the pitch pilot, and that's kind of where that started. And it's just really important to me to be able to include advocacy and awareness for what counseling is now. We are not quacks, which is what we were 50 years ago, and that's it, right?
mm.
There's so much room for advocacy in the field. And then what was the second avenue you mentioned?
It was gaming.
The gaming, yeah.
Yeah.
That one I connected with individuals from different colleges who were artists and designers. And I
Hmm.
asked if they wanted to create an educational children's application, or game based off one of my books. So that was
Mm.
an opportunity for me to connect with interns and to give college students an opportunity to be seen in a different way.
Yeah, that's great. There are connections of people, of
Hmm.
ideas, of thoughts, of experience,
Yes.
all these different things when
Mm.
they come together. Often it's a even an accident maybe, or just a serendipity or prayer or
Mm,
whatever you want
hmm.
to, however, but it happens. And then it creates this mashup, which is like
Yes.
mashing your book up with game makers, and all of a sudden you got this new product. And
Right.
the original mashup, which is now very common in software development and many other
Hmm.
things, but it was the Reese's peanut butter cup. Peanut butter suddenly and got mixed in with the chocolate by accident, and you taste it, and this is delicious.
It's
And
something
boom.
magical.
All right. Well, thank you for all that, Michelle. Let's take a quick commercial break so our sponsor can spread a little love with our audience.
Are you ready to transform your life? At happyliving.com, we've discovered 4 keys to help you live with purpose, joy, and significance. Unlock your truth with the Happy Quiz. Unlock your happy formula with inspiring stories from the Something Significant Show. Unlock your roadmap to happiness with our free ebook, Making Your Mark of Significance. And unlock your inspired life with our life-changing e-course, The Philosophy of You and Your Inspired Life. This is your time to shine. Go to happyliving.com now and click Unlock the Power of You. Unlock your power. Live your best life. happyliving.com.
And we're back, and this is the Something Significant Show, and I'm your host, Matt Gersper. And my special guest star today is Michalla Brianna. She's a visionary healer, artist, and advocate for mental well-being, blending expressive arts with holistic therapy through her company, The Healing Arts. She's also the founder of Barrie Patch Books, where she creates inspiring, fun, and engaging stories for children. A former Disney entertainer, Michalla brings creativity, joy, and deep compassion to everything she touches. Her work helps people heal, express, and rediscover their inner light through art, storytelling, and heart-centered connection. Michalla, I love that. And I think you're going to love this article that I found called The Science Behind the Power of Giving. And it says that the act of giving itself can be a gateway to discovering your reason for being on the planet. The science tells us that giving our time, talents, and treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering purpose and overcoming difficulties and finding fulfillment and true meaning in life. So I updated our formula. Power plus purpose plus giving equals really happy. So how about you, Michalla? Has giving your time, talents, and treasures been a pathway for discovering your purpose and for getting past difficulties that you've faced and for bringing real meaning into your life?
Absolutely. They say that gratitude practices on a daily basis are one of those things that build our dopamine, serotonin, our happiness, and our joy. And I think that I was seeking meaning and purpose and joy my whole life. And I kept saying, this isn't it. This isn't it. And when I entered this counseling field, right, the helping or the healing field, I suddenly am seeing and being told I'm making a difference. I matter. And I'm seeing individuals transform. And I always use the analogy, they're going from being embers back into this burning, beautiful light of inspiration. And I am so honored to be in a career path where I am able to witness people's transformations and their growth, and to see them go from A to Z is wonderful and gives me immense joy.
It's just a wonderful feeling. I know it, and I know I can tell it in you too. So, excuse me.
Bless you.
The science tells us that giving to others helps bring real meaning to our lives. And the joy that we get from that fourth element of significance, as I define it, doing work that creates value for others, confirms it. But there's something more to it than just the giving, Michalla. I believe that the real magic of life comes when you're giving from living in your purpose, because it creates a profound joy, not just for those receiving, but giver too, because purpose comes from a higher place. It comes from God, or it comes from out there. And so, Michalla, the audience and I would like to hear directly from you in your own words. Maybe give us some examples of you're pouring your heart, you're just expressing it into healing others from your purpose with your work at the Healing Arts and through the books too. Can you try to describe the joy that you were just touching on when you get see those great results in the lives that you've touched? Maybe you'll give us an example of an adult through your mental health work, and then maybe an example of a child that you've actually watched it and seen their joy, and that joy lifts you. Give us a couple examples.
I mean, my goal with every single session is to make space for my clients, right? To feel safe, to feel authentic. And my purpose here on earth is to inspire others through authentic living, right? Through just being myself and hopefully touching others in that way. And so, varied examples. Someone might be coming in with a trauma, with anxiety, with depression, with feeling not seen and not heard. So it's either my job to validate, make space, reassure, but be careful of roles, right? Crossing roles, or to ask them challenge questions. I actually value in other therapists and humbly within myself the ability to ask challenge questions and philosophical questions. It's that teach a man to fish saying, because it changes people's perspectives. And if you can change perspectives, then you shift everything.
And speaking of perspective, give us your thoughts on, I was just talking with somebody the other day about this. When you discover your purpose and you're really in it, and you're not, you're once there, I mean, by definition, you're not there because culture says you should be there, because your mom or dad said it. No, you've found it, And then you start feeling a joy that you were expressing just a little while ago. And I think a lot of it is when we take in that moment, when our purpose comes alive, we take our focus off ourselves and we put it
Mm.
onto others.
Mhm.
And that is a total game changer. So give us a minute or so on that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, almost twofold. I think that there's something really powerful about feeling worthy, right? A lot of us are seeking to find worth and to feel
Hmm.
enough.
Hmm.
And so when people find their purpose and their meaning, they finally feel enough and everything falls away. And that happened for me. Everyone
Hmm.
else's ideas of what I should be and goals and dreams fell off. Um, and the second component of that, I feel that it's important to give back to the self, but also to others, right? We don't want to skip that. And what you said earlier, my cup must be full in order to have it overflow. And there's there's meaning and purpose that can be found in being part of someone's journey because that's the
Yeah,
connection component.
yeah. And let's go back just a little bit more on the cup.
Mm,
When you say the reason I need my cup to be overflowing is so I can give to others,
yeah.
that is another change of perspective,
Yes.
right?
Yes. It's not about myself at that point, right? Because I could go through life completely disconnected and just obtaining material things or whatever have you to fill my cup, and it would feel good short term. But until I'm letting it spill over into other spaces, it's not providing depth.
Yeah. And then the final thing on this for me is when your cup is overflowing like that through living in your purpose and you're giving out all the stuff that's running over, your cup fills up even more faster after that and more fuller. You need a bigger cup, right?
You need multiple cups. Exactly.
Yes. Yes, very good. And folks, just look at Michalla's face. That's what this show is all about. We're here to encourage you to find that magic in your lives. And it's available for each of us. That's what I believe. And it comes from this great, big, beautiful, happy circle. Giving your time, talents, and treasures is a powerful pathway for discovering your purpose. And then giving from living in your purpose brings profound joy to your life because you've found it, and then to the lives of those around you too. So it seems that giving leads to purpose and giving from purpose leads to joy. So to capture the entire exponential power of our happy formula, Mashallah, let me tweak it just a tiny bit more to power times purpose times giving equals happy to the third power. And that's really, truly, deeply happy. Does that sound about right to you?
That sounds just right.
Very good. All right, let's wrap things up with our lightning round. I love the power of words and the capacity for great quotes. You've got to be on the same page because you're an author. And so I'm going to read a few of my favorites and ask you to tell us what they mean to you and give us the first thought, not the first word, but just the first thought that comes to mind because we call this a lightning round. Now,
Okay.
here we go. This is from the Dalai Lama. Happiness is not something ready-made. It comes from your own actions.
Mm. So happiness is not something that already exists that we have to go find. We have to cultivate it within ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. From Viktor Frankl.
Mm.
Said when we are no longer able to change a situation, we are challenged to change ourselves.
Mm. That's one my clients would love. When we are in situations that we have power over ourselves, we can then change our environment, is what's coming to mind. Mhm.
Okay, this is from Shunryu Suzuki. I love all these, but maybe I love this a little more. You're perfect. You're perfect just as you are, and you can use a little improvement.
That is self acceptance, but just because you've accepted yourself doesn't mean you should stop improving or seeking more.
Yeah, and so Shunryu, he's Japanese. It's self-acceptance with Kaizen.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. From Mother Teresa. She was also pretty good, huh?
Hmm.
She said, it's not how much we give, but how much love we put into giving.
Mm. Mm. That's a quality over quantity. It's not about how much we're giving, it's how present we are in the moments of doing so.
Yeah. And it reminds me, and I'll get your thought on this. When we started Happy Living, I'd come from the international trade business and we started this new thing that we didn't know what it was going to be, happy living. And our mission was to improve the happy of the world. And I thought, one of the things I needed to do was to get out of my ego and to start giving and serving. And I thought, improving the happy of the world, that's right back where your big ego. It's like be on all the biggest stages and be Tony Robbins. And I thought, no, you're messing up again, dude. So we added comma, one person at a time.
Oh, I love that.
And then I thought, geez, if you could just change the life of one person, maybe in your family, and you wouldn't even be known by anybody, that should be worthy.
Absolutely.
And that's what you were just mentioning.
Absolutely. And that's such a good point when we talk about ego and people's search for greatness and being remembered, but we look at it on such a grand scale and forget that we're remembered by those individuals, right?
Right around
quiet
us.
levels, yeah.
Yeah, right around us that we're ignoring. This is from Mark Nepo. Also, just a beautiful quote. The flower doesn't dream of the bee. It blossoms and the bee comes.
Ooh, that's a good one. That almost speaks for me, to manifesting, right? It's that I shouldn't sit here and dream of all of the things that I could have. I'm simply grateful for what I am in my existence, and things naturally flow to me I can be grateful for.
Yep. And you mentioned a word that makes me think of this quite a few times, being authentic.
Yes. Yeah.
The flower is just being and a bee's being a bee, and they get together and life is good.
Absolutely.
All right, this is our show anchor from Goff. He said, whatever you can do or dream you can do, begin it. Boldness has genius, power, and magic in it. Begin it now.
That is something that I said to myself the very first time I started my first company. And it's kind of a just do it moment, right? You can't be afraid. You can't overthink. You have to just go for it and trust.
Yeah, just do it.
Yeah.
Okay, folks, thank you for that, Michalla. Folks, now it's your chance to be a giver too. If you can hear my voice and you were inspired by today's show with Michalla Brianna, please share a little love with our wonderful broadcast team by giving what you can to WITV7. They're a 501c3 charity on a mission to educate, empower, and encourage. They do good works with your kindness. Michalla, I love your boundless creativity and how you use art and healing to uplift people of all ages. Your work touches hearts and transforms lives and brings light to those who need it most. And I admire your deep compassion and dedication to improving lives through the healing arts and Barrie Patch Books. And I'm super happy that you've shared your healing, visionary, and heart-centered spirit on our show today. Would you please take a few minutes and share any parting remarks you'd like to leave with our audience?
Well, one, thank you so much for what you've created and for shining your light and being authentic. You're drawing people in naturally, and we're creating raindrops. So thank you for that. I think what I would leave that feels most important to me is to know that you can absolutely 100% do anything and everything that you want. So don't be afraid to try. Whether you have support or not, make it for yourself. Make the time, make the opportunity, because you are worthy and deserving of these things. And I believe in you. I don't know you, but I believe in you.
Yeah, it's out there for all of us, folks. I hope you're listening and keep searching for it, because when you find it, it's amazing. Thank you, Michalla. And I also want to thank WITV7 for hosting and promoting our show so we can keep interviewing inspiring guest stars like Michalla and reaching folks just like you, ready to create your own extraordinary lives. And most especially, thank you, viewers and listeners. You'll find links to social media and all things Michalla Brianna. Find her, friend her, buy her books, read her blog, sign up for her e-course, Transforming Through Creative Expression and Meditation. Check out her magazine and her workbooks and more. You'll find all of it in the show notes. From me to you, dear friends, I love you and I want you to be really, truly, deeply happy too. So don't wait. Head on over to happyliving.com right now and click Unlock Here to start discovering the life you were meant to live. A life filled with purpose, joy, and true significance. And as you're unlocking your truth and your formula and your roadmap for your inspired life, take a minute and think about what we can do together, you and me, to improve the happy of your world, one person at a time. Till next time, I'm Matt Gersper. You are awesome. And this is the Something Significant Show. And this is my puppy Piper that's been biting my arm for the last 5 minutes. So I hope I did fine on air. Till next time, folks, we're out.